I think everybody likes to save money. I certainly do. And as somebody already said today in this session, in our pre-chat, if we're going to pay taxes, we might want to also know about tax credits. So today we have Madeline Hung, one of the founders of Castle. She's going to tell you way more about that and also some of the most important tax credits that you can get for your home in 2024. I love Castle. I love this topic. And because this is an Upstate Curious webinar, we're also going to be, or you can ask any questions you want here in the chat, but also we're definitely going to be asking Madeline to address what's available for primary homeowners, what's available for second homeowners. And if you want to know what the difference is between primary and secondary, according to the government, talk to your accountant. That would be my advice. Without further ado, I'm going to put myself away and I will let Madeline introduce herself and Castle. Welcome.
Thank you so much, Megan. I'm so happy to be here. So happy to be doing this webinar with Upstate Curious. Like Megan said, my name's Madeline. I'm the co-founder and CEO of Castle. And I know we're here to talk about tax credits today, but yeah, I figured I would just share a little bit of background on Castle and tell you a little bit about what we're building before we jump into the juicy details. So yeah, our journey with Castle started about 2 years ago. My husband and I moved up to the Hudson Valley and I say embarked on the great joy and the great pain of renovating a historic home. Was a lifelong dream of mine to be able to do a project like that, and got to be really involved in the design of that renovation. At the same time, one thing that we found particularly painful about our renovation was that we didn't always have a good sense of where our money was going, whether we were paying too much, and certainly didn't have a great awareness of the different ways in which we could be saving money on our home, both during the renovation and in general. I often describe the experience as writing checks into a black hole. And I think one other thing that we just felt going through that experience is that, we've had great tools to manage our finances in many other aspects of our life, maybe in the companies we work for, or even in other areas of our life as consumers. But then yet when it came to paying for, our biggest asset, our home, we just really felt like we were kind of in the dark ages, managing lots of different payment portals and checks. And some people want Venmo and some people want Zelle. And I found myself making this massive spreadsheet, just trying to keep track of everything. And it felt like there had to be a better way, again, to kind of understand where our money was going and how we could be saving money. On the saving money piece, we kind of learned up really quickly about a lot of different tax credits that we could have been taking advantage of, but that it seemed like lots of our neighbors did not realize existed, and saved, our family pretty much 6 figures on our renovation, which is just a lot of money that we could have otherwise just, again, not known that those opportunities existed or not know how to claim them. So it was really the combination of those experiences that led us to start Castle. So Castle is building financial tools and services to help homeowners save time and money on their homes. We, first want to help homeowners actually understand, how they're spending money on their homes. So kind of eliminate the feeling of that black hole or that leaking bucket, and help you understand, what is your monthly burn on your house, by helping you consolidate all of your payments for your home in one place through our Bill Pay mobile app. And then once we've helped you understand the money you're already spending on your home, help you optimize that spend and find ways for you to save. And we've, saved our average customer close to $20,000 so far, in, through tax credits, rebates, and other savings opportunities. So yeah, I know we're going to dive a little bit more into what are those specific opportunities for homeowners. But yeah, that's kind of the high level overview of Castle. So helping homeowners understand what they're spending on their home, consolidate their home expenses in one place, and then identify ways for them to save. So yeah, I mean, Megan,
yeah, I was gonna say, let me ask a couple more like Castle questions before we
Great.
jump in. Also wanted to let you all know that about midway through this, and we're gonna send an email about it, we're gonna have an exciting announcement from Castle, which is a really great way to save taxes, to save on your taxes. So
yeah.
I guess one of my questions would be, what areas do you guys cover? I know the plan is, you're founders, y'all see a problem, so you see the opportunity to like solve the problem. So this is going to be nationwide, but what areas do you cover now?
That's right. So, and this is a kind of a really exciting moment in Castle's, evolution as a company, because up until now, we've really only been serving customers in Columbia and Dutchess County. And that's where we've just been, again, really going in depth with customers and users and trying to understand their problems and build essentially a beta of our mobile app. But now for the first time, we'll be expanding to New York State. I mean, I think our customers in the Hudson Valley will always still get special treatment because that's where we are, physically, and we'd like to have as much face time with our customers as possible and, sit in their living rooms and understand their problems. So I think forever we'll be like, testing the newest features with folks in the Hudson Valley. But we now are technically will be offering our services throughout New York State. And like you said, Megan, this is just the, first step. We do intend to offer our product nationally. And have big ambitions to serve the 80 million homeowners in America. We've just been starting off here in the Hudson Valley.
Awesome. Yeah, I know that for me was surprising because you guys look so, I mean, it shouldn't be surprising, but you look so professional already online. So it looks like,
Thank you.
oh, this is this like wildly, this huge national company. And then it's like, oh no, I mean, yes,
Yeah.
it will be a huge national company and also very much rooted in this area, which I love. So does anybody have any questions about Castle before Madeline jumps into, actually, let me put your
please. Any
website
questions?
in there, which is Castle Pay, or no, getcastle.com.
We just updated. We have the Castle trademark now. So we're getcastle.com. It's very exciting.
Oh my gosh. Yeah, so you guys
That's
can look
great.
at that. And just so we say this right away, who should they talk to if they're interested in Castle?
Yeah, so we'll share. I think or Shane can throw it in the chat right now. We like to have an initial consultation with anybody who's interested in learning more about our product, so that we can again understand your kind of home situation, ways in which you're interested in saving money on your home. So we do that kind of custom consultation whenever we're looking to work with somebody. So yeah, Shane, if you want to drop the link to book a consultation in the chat. That's the best way to kind of get started.
And I'm going to put my favorite page here because some of the things you're going to be talking about will cover this, I think. But this is the page where Castle sort of, they detail, like you can't, like, I knew there were credits. Obviously, we have lots of clients who do things like this. I did not know there were this many. So this like really details by category what some of the options are. But this is not the kind of thing for the faint of heart to try and get like the historic barn credit or something. Like, I think it's good to have.
Absolutely. Yeah, and maybe that's a good segue, Megan. I mean, I think so yeah, what Megan just shared in the chat is what we call our savings directory. Essentially, over the last year, Castle has built, as far as I know, the only comprehensive database of savings opportunities for homeowners in New York State. And like I said at the top of this call, there's so many different savings opportunities for homeowners out there. And we just find in our conversations with homeowners, most people just don't know that they exist. So we very much believe that this should be, everybody should have access to this information. And so, yeah, our savings directory is public. Of course, if you want assistance in claiming those credits, that's where Castle comes in. And hopefully we're saving you some time in actually claiming those credits, because some of them do unfortunately involve kind of cumbersome application processes and all of that. But yeah, our savings directory is public, and please spread the word. But yeah, I know today we were gonna talk about a couple of different tax credits, but yeah, really, please take a look through the directory. We're happy to talk about any ones that catch your eye, or if there's folks who have specific questions for their properties, we're happy to do that kind of FAQ live. But yeah, so talk about a couple of different credits. We'll start with that. Sound good, Megan? Okay, awesome. Well, yeah, like I said, so many different credits out there, but I was going to highlight just 3 to start. So the first one is a federal income tax credit. And this is probably the one that you've seen all throughout the news. It's called the Federal Residential Energy Credit, and it was made possible with funding by the Inflation Reduction Act. So that's what Megan said at the top of this call. Inflation Reduction Act, you've seen it in the news. What is that? It's a program that approves funding for essentially improvements to the home that improve your home's energy efficiency. So these tend to be improvements that again, either improve the efficiency of your heating and cooling systems or make improvements to the envelope of your home. So those are things like windows, doors, insulation. It's a $1,200 credit per year that you can claim, with their specific caps for different products. So certain caps for windows, certain caps for doors, but you can claim it every year. This program has been approved through 2030. So technically in the next 6 years, you could replace one window per year and claim this credit every year. So yeah, this is just, we find American homes are old. Folks need to do these kinds of just kind of maintenance improvements year after year, a little bit of insulation here, replacing a window. So this is a really great credit, either for folks who are doing a big renovation or again, just doing some light maintenance. So yeah, $1,200 a year. You can claim an additional $2,000 if you are doing installing an electric heat pump, and that's specifically for your heating and cooling system, which would make it $3,200. But yeah, $1,200 year after year. Federal Residential Energy Credit. Encourage everyone to claim that credit. So that's the first one.
That's available for short-term rentals? No, right?
No, unfortunately. So this one is intended for primary residences. I will say if you are doing HVAC improvements to a second home, because we have some second homeowners on here, there are other programs that you can still qualify for if it's not your primary residence. New York Clean Heat is a great program there. If you're making HVAC improvements to a second home. So again, that's installing electric heat pump systems, heating, cooling systems still qualify there, as well as some utility rebates. So sometimes you can get a rebate directly from the electricity or gas utility, like National Grid, and they don't necessarily discriminate based on primary or secondary residence as well.
So this would be in addition to the rebate, right? Because the government doesn't.
Yes, that's right. And that's the thing that we always tell our customers is that so many of these programs you can double or triple dip. And so that's what sometimes people don't realize. Yes, the Federal Residential Energy Credit, you can stack with New York Clean Heat, with National Grid rebates, all for the same piece of equipment. So yeah, that's really great call out, Megan.
That's awesome. Yeah. I know because I do know that all of the, heat pump installers that I've ever spoken to, I mean, there are, I don't know if it's through Central Hudson or who it is in our area, but there are definitely utility company rebates for these things. Yeah. So, okay. So if you I might have some follow-up questions because we may be getting new heat pumps, but yeah. So is the $2,000, so we could theoretically get one heat pump this year and then get one and
yes, absolutely. Absolutely. Federal Residential Energy Credit, you can claim again, year after year after year. You can't double dip on the same piece of equipment because it is based on when it was installed. So that's an important clarification. But yeah, like I said, if you're doing a little bit of insulation every year, if you're replacing one window this year, another window next year, if you're doing, maybe it's a heat pump water heater this year, and then a actual heat pump heating system next year, you can claim for both, correct?
I will say also that these are so popular now. I would feel like, I mean, not just for environmental reasons, but I mean, also, but we have kind of partially installed them, which is why this is kind of interesting. So we have one in this room, which is huge and actually needed cooling more than anything else. Yeah. And so now it's something that I think even when I came here 7 years ago, like you would see the heat pumps or the mini splits and it would, you're sort of be like, what's that ugly thing on the wall? And now we're all so used to it, just like the rest of the world has had these.
Absolutely. You can also do a ducted heat pump system. There's lots of different flavors of heat pumps as well, just as a side note.
Or have a little cover for it. So yeah. Okay, so last question about this. So this this is the kind of thing where and again, I do not get paid by Castle. I am just about to be a customer actually for our primary residence. If I were to be working with you guys, or when I'm working with you guys, I would be able to say, hey, Shane, we know we want to get heat pumps. We know we want to do these 4 things. Can you help me figure out the best way to do it? That's sort of the idea.
That's exactly right. I mean, by the way, shout out to Shane, who's on the Castle team and is here on the webinar. He's kind of our in-house tax credit expert. So I know, Shane will definitely jump in on the Q&A as well. but I think, yeah, to your specific question, Megan, how can Castle support you? Like, for example, with this credit, exactly. We could either tell you what is a credit eligible product to install or not. So we can look up that information for you. We can tell you how to, suggest how you kind of optimize your savings by claiming things over multiple years. I think another piece of that is that some folks don't realize that, if they do all this work in 1 year, let's say that they're not just replacing windows and doors and insulation and heat pumps, but they're also doing solar, and then actually they kind of max out on all of their taxable income. And so that doesn't do you any favors, because better to do in solar 1 year and then everything else the next year, again, so you can kind of get maximum benefit. So exactly, Castle can help advise on those kinds of questions.
Oh, awesome. Okay, now I'm shutting my pie hole and you can go back to more tax credit.
No, that's great. Okay, so yeah, so those are some really great federal programs to be aware of. The second category we want to talk about, especially for folks in the Hudson Valley, there are some incredible programs available for historic homes and barns. So specifically, the first one is the New York Historic Homeowner Credit. This applies to anyone who lives in a historic home, which doesn't necessarily mean it has to be old. It does have to be in a historic district. But sometimes people say, oh, my house was built in 1960, and it doesn't seem like it's old enough. Not necessarily true. This needs to be in a historic district. And there's historic districts all throughout the Hudson Valley, Kingston, Rhinebeck, Hudson, Beacon. So anyway, it's always worth checking. The New York Historic Homeowner Credit gives homeowners 20% back on their qualified renovation expenses. And it's a pretty kind of generous bucket of what qualifies as a qualified renovation expense. Essentially anything that is a capital improvement. So changes to, carpentry, electrical, plumbing, but also things like paint and wallpaper. And so it's a really, really great program for folks to be aware of. Again, 20% of your qualified renovation expenses, up to $50,000 per homeowner per year, can be claimed back as a state income tax credit. So that's the first one. Always want folks to just check if they're eligible, because it's such a huge opportunity to save. So that's the New York, again, Historic Homeowner Credit. And the second one is the New York Historic Barn Credit. Again, what qualifies as a historic barn doesn't necessarily need to be built in 1800. Any barn or carriage house that was built before 1946 qualifies. And for the barn credit, it doesn't even need to be in a historic district. Again, it just needs to be built before 1946. And there, 25% of your qualified expenses, renovation expenses, can be claimed back as a New York State income tax credit. There, the kind of what qualifies are a little bit narrower. It's more things that are structural to the barn. But again, carpentry, plumbing, electrical, still pretty good coverage there in terms of what are qualified expenses. And again, you can claim 25% of your costs back as an income tax credit. There's not a cap there. So for the historic home credit, $50,000 per homeowner per year, no cap on the barn credit. So yeah.
For the barn, I feel like, because this is one of the ones that I looked into, and I think
Yeah.
that they count, I believe that they count painting as a structural thing because it helps protect the.
If
And
it's
I don't know.
yeah, especially if it's yeah, for the outside, yeah, siding, exactly. They want to make sure that the barn is staying in good condition,
Yeah, it's not
essentially.
like
So
So I mean, because I got a
Yeah.
quote to paint. We have 2 historic barns, and I mean, it
Yeah.
was going to be like, I don't know, like $38,000 or something. So to be able to get
Totally.
8% just for the painting, so, and like some
Yeah.
like light repairs. So that, yeah, because I
Yeah.
never think of painting as structural, except that it is, because if you don't have it, if it's just raw wood, it's gonna.
Exactly. And certainly, yeah, replacing windows and doors, depending, especially with barns, sometimes it could be like a funky custom size. Those can be really expensive replacements. So barn credit is great for that. Yeah, I mean, going back to the historic homeowner credit as well, where we get to kind of that, how do you stack these credits? If you're installing an electric heat pump and you're in a historic home, so you're getting 20% from the historic homeowner credit, plus federal residential energy credit, $2,000 there, plus New York Clean Heat, plus rebates. So yeah, that's exactly what we want to help homeowners understand, is how they can kind of stack these credits as well and put them together.
Also, Shane just added this in the chat, and I don't remember if chat is shown in the recording, but it says what he said was it's great for second home STR owners. If you have an outbuilding built before 1946, you're updating for a non-residential purpose, like you have an art studio or playhouse or yoga studio or gym, you can leverage this program also.
That is correct. Yeah, exactly. And and if anybody is interested in learning more about these programs, of course, we're happy to dive even more into the details around eligibility. Shane did make a great call out for the barn credit program. It can't be used for a residential purpose. You can't be converting it to part of your home where you're sleeping, for example. But yeah, still many great non-residential purposes out there that we see folks use for this program all the time. And yeah, so for second homeowners, that's great. Even with the historic homeowner credit, though, again, that's another kind of misconception often about that program. You are still eligible if it's your second home. So there's, again, some narrower eligibility requirements we can dive into if you're in that situation. For example, you do have to exclude parts of it that are income producing. If you're like renting out part of it, then that factors into the calculus around how much of the cost you can claim, but still eligible to claim even if it's your second home. So.
I will also state for the record here that from the real estate agent perspective, we built an outbuilding that is an office. So it's non-residential, but it fulfills all of the code requirements to become a bedroom with a full bathroom and everything. So it is being currently used as an office. The town is like, keep it as an office. When you want to, if you ever want to, it's just like we can flip a switch and change them into bedrooms. So if you were going to go sell it, you could do that. So a lot of people have non-residential space that could be used as residential. It's currently classified as non-residential. Primarily, they do it actually to save taxes because their assessment is low. So they're saving their county school taxes. So it's like, this would be like another way to kind of stack it is the town doesn't, you decide what the use is, basically. It doesn't matter if it has a closet. It doesn't matter if there's a bathroom in there. None of that matters. It matters what you tell them you're going to use it for.
Yeah, no, definitely. So we're happy to advise folks on kind of the trade-offs between residential and non-residential use. I think, the last thing to say about the barn credit as well. Carriage houses, if they were used to store horses at any point in time, also count. So it doesn't even need to be, a classic red barn on an acre of land. This could be what is currently your garage. If it was ever designated as a carriage house, also qualifies. So yeah, Shane just wrote in the chat, the horse test. This is quite literally the test we use to determine if your barn is eligible. Was there ever a horse in it? Did it ever hold any agricultural equipment, a spade? Then it actually qualifies. So yeah, exactly. Great. So that's another great category of credits, especially for this audience to consider: historic home and historic barn credits. And then the third category I actually wanted to highlight today is actually not one we often talk about, but it's come up in conversation a couple of times recently, which is that we just want to remind homeowners who are looking to sell their home to remember to keep track of their capital improvements. And that's because when you go to sell your home, you can deduct your capital improvements from your cost basis to minimize your capital gains. And we just find in general that a lot of homeowners forget to do this or actually vastly underestimate how much they've invested in capital improvements in their home. And that could be especially relevant to second homeowners where they don't have that kind of initial $250K of exemption for their capital gains, which is only relevant for your primary residence. So yeah, just reminding everyone to keep track of your capital improvements so that when you go to sell your home, you can adjust your cost basis and minimize your capital gains.
Wow.
And that's also something Castle can help with, is in kind of like turning that drawer, that manila folder of all your receipts from the last 10 years of owning your home into some data you can use to calculate that adjustment.
I was literally just going to say that, is that as someone who has sold, so with what Madeline was mentioning, so when it's a primary residence, then a single person has $250,000 excluded from capital gains. A couple would have $500,000. Actually, it might even be a little bit more now. But talk to an accountant. None of this is tax advice. But capital gains is basically if you bought the house for $500,000, when you go to sell it, it's $800,000. you have to pay taxes on the difference, on the $300,000. So what you and your accountants will do at that moment is try to find every expense that will lower that amount, lower that $300. So the cost of hiring an amazing real estate team like us to list your home, the sales commission comes right off it. But so do capital improvements, which are improvements that you make to your home that is like, that you can't take with you. So it's not like your
Exactly.
furniture. It's like the roof, the like new kitchen cabinets. Like there's a lot of things that count as this. And what is interesting is that I think that actually, especially for second homes, nobody keeps track of it right.
Exactly.
And this is
Yeah.
also where like a lot of times the contractors will like kind of be a little bit weird about giving you receipts and things. This to me is, I'm so glad that you mentioned, because I wouldn't have thought of it in this context either, but like
Yeah.
when your accountant says, hey, can you give me, there's also things that you can depreciate as capital expenses earlier on. And so
Mhm.
if your accountant says, hey, give me all those receipts for your capital expenses, I know the first time they happened to me, I was like, what's a capital expense? Why would I have kept one single receipt?
Yeah,
And then I
exactly.
was like trying to talk to people from 5 years ago and be like, hey, person, like where am I? It was horrible. And I'm sure that we lost a bunch of money. So
Yeah.
I think that is a great one. And I think just for the sake of not feeling like a dodo in front of your accountant.
Exactly.
I'll
Yeah.
try
Or
it.
just, and when we do, we know plenty of homeowners who again do keep that kind of that drawer, that manila folder, knowing that someday they're going to be asked this question, they want to, whip out their receipts. But then yeah, just the time to kind of sit down and are you uploading those into a spreadsheet, you emailing them to your accountant? It's kind of like who has the time. So that's exactly the kind of thing that Castle could kind of, slurp into the app for you and give you like a really clean accounting of yeah, the capital improvements you've made to your home.
I love that.
Yeah. So yeah, so those were just a couple, but like I said, really happy to answer questions about yeah, any number of credits. I mean, school tax relief, the STAR credit, another great one that we find many homeowners don't realize they're eligible for. EV charging. There's great property tax exemptions if you're over 65, if you're a veteran or member of clergy. There's appliance rebates, ag exemptions. So, I mean, I know I'm just word vomiting on all of you, but there's really, I know there's too much to cover everything in this call, but happy to speak to any of those or other questions folks have in more detail. And I think just that the last thing that we do want to share before we go into a Q&A is this our special announcement about the opportunity to save on taxes that we're most excited about right now. Is that okay, Megan? Can we let it drop?
Yep. Let's do it.
Okay, great. So yeah, so we are so excited to be partnering with Upstate Curious to launch for the first time our free property tax giveaway. So what this is we'll be picking one lucky homeowner who we will pay up to $15,000 of their 2024 property taxes. All they need to do is sign up to enter into the sweepstakes, into the giveaway. And we'll have a 15-minute consultation like we talked about at the beginning of the call, just to tell you what kind of savings opportunities you might be eligible for your home. And then you'll be entered to win. And yeah, like we said, up to $15,000 we will pay for your 2024 property taxes for any home that you own in New York State. So really exciting opportunity. No one would be rather be doing it with than Upstate Curious. So also happy to answer any questions about that giveaway on this call.
And this one is definitely open to any second homeowners, just any property you own in New York State. And
Yeah.
I love this. I love it. I'm so excited about it because I think a lot, especially first time homeowners, the property taxes are kind of surprising. You're sort of like, wait, what? I
Yeah,
just paid my taxes in January. Now there's a bigger bill coming in September. What? School taxes? I don't go to school. I don't have kids. I know
absolutely.
everybody kind of has a vague sense of it, but I think this is going to be, I love this. And because I think everybody should do I think you'd be not nuts. I think doing a 15-minute consultation with you guys to just find out if you can save money, like,
Yeah.
why would you, like, even if there wasn't the chance of this, why would you not? do that.
100%, 100%. So
So
yeah, completely free to enter. Yeah, at Castle, again, we want to save homeowners time and money. This is just another way that we want to help homeowners in New York State save money on their homes. And yeah, I mean, exactly what you were saying, Megan, also for new homeowners, sometimes they again weren't fully aware of how much they're not if they have a fabulous Upstate Curious agent, of course, but maybe other less lucky homeowners don't
even if we
realize.
tell them,
Yeah,
like even if you tell them and the account, and the attorneys told them and everything, it
yeah,
still sometimes is sort of shocking when you get to the point where you have to write
totally.
a check.
Totally. Or maybe they get unfortunately reassessed and the taxes go up. Another thing we can actually help advise homeowners on is whether their property is well positioned to grieve a reassessment. But yeah, and then exactly, we want to give away the gift of free taxes to one lucky homeowner in our community. So
I
yeah,
I did not
cool.
know you also did that. So for anybody who doesn't know, this is like one of my favorite things. Like every year there is one day in each town called Grievance Day, which I feel like I just want to go and like share. I'm like my last experience with JetBlue and my, just like
Yeah,
all of
that's
my
right.
grievances, but it's where you can
That's
go
right.
and grieve your assessment. So you can say like, hey, my home has been reassessed, or I think I bought it and I think it was assessed too highly, assessed too high. And the assessment is what your taxes are based on. And so you can go and you can argue it. And we've absolutely seen people have success with that. Um, you have to have like, it can't just be like, I want to pay less, but if you have some good basis for it, which I guess you guys can help also explain, that is pretty fantastic. I had one other tax thing that I was thinking of that is possibly helpful for some people as well. Because I think so, which is basically the bonus depreciation, which was signed into, which was approved now until 2026. So basically, it's a little bit more complicated. Talk to your accountant. But essentially, what happens is that you take the amount of money, and this is definitely for investment properties. You take the amount of money that you bought the home. They essentially, you have somebody do what's called a cost segregation analysis. They like slice the home into little pieces. They're like, this is the land, these are your appliances, these are your, the fittings. And each of those has a different rate of depreciation that the government sets. And so they kind of maximize that essentially and say, okay, for this stuff, we're going to depreciate it immediately. And then you get to have a bonus depreciation, which for 2024 is 60%. So if you were depreciating $100,000, would that be 160? Why is my math so bad? No, right? It'd be 60% more than 100. Yeah, it would be $160,000 that you would take against your taxes. So when we bought our farm, it was 100% bonus depreciation. I saved more money that year than our down payment on the farm. It was
Incredible.
wild. Yeah. So
Yeah.
when I was thinking, when you're talking about stacking, take that, stack these other things. Now, again, talk to an accountant. There are things, it means
Yeah.
it's more, you get higher it lowers your cost basis. So if you go to sell it, you will have to pay higher capital gains. But stacking that with some of the things you're talking about, plus the free taxes for 2024.
Yeah, no, I think that's great. I know Shane, you've looked into this a little bit. Do you want to add anything there?
Yeah, no, I think Megan did a great job of covering the high level on that. I'll say when you think about kind of depreciation versus tax credits, those are kind of like two different toolkits that you have two different tools in the toolkit that you have at your disposal. So for your primary residence, there are those credits in on the federal level, on the state level, that are really laser focused on owners who occupy their primary residence. But then the other tool, when you have a short-term rental, a second property that has an income producing portion, that's when depreciation and other programs can be really, really lucrative. So it's just all about making sure you're using the right tool for the asset that you're thinking about. The most important asset I think that everybody owns in your lifetime is the home that you live in. But if you own multiple properties, you have multiple assets you want to make sure you're maximizing the investment in. So always happy to help you think about what's the right tool to deploy for the asset you're thinking about. And yeah, Megan did a great job of touching on it. And as always, talk to your accountant, your trusted tax preparer. They're going to be the best to give you the clear advice, because my biggest piece, the only tax advice I will give away is talk to a tax preparer and be consistent with all things taxes, because you never want to get into a situation where you're saying different things to different entities. But yeah, definitely a program to check out.
And I think you
100%.
talk to a tax preparer who understands real estate. And particularly if you are
Mhm.
own multiple properties, you are going to invest. Like I know my CPAs that I was working with prior did not. So
Yeah.
they just weren't thinking about this. And then when I switched to the account, he was like, you need to buy another, if you could like scrape together the down payment however you can and buy another property because this is such a wildly beneficial program. So I
Yeah.
think that, finding somebody who can talk you through some of these things, it's sort of like the equivalent of Castle. So it's like get the good tax person and then get, ideally, I don't know anybody else. Like if I knew
Yeah.
somebody else, I'd be like Castle or this other company. But I don't know anybody else. These guys are kind of like at the
No,
vanguard,
exactly.
right? Is there anybody doing?
Exactly. And no, exactly, Megan. No, and I think, yeah, we are not ultimately a tax preparer, but I think one thing that we have seen is that, yeah, a lot of wonderful CPAs, but don't know which window skew is eligible for this tax credit, or the differences between these two different heat pump systems. So we really see ourselves as a complement to traditional tax preparers, CPAs, and that we have that kind of more expertise, granular expertise around your home and what in your home might be qualifying. But then we like to work and partner with tax preparer CPAs to actually, create the tax filing. So yeah, we see ourselves as a complement. They're going to be experts on the tax law, but we can be experts on your house.
But does anybody, what I would say is, even if you don't have a question, if you want to just like throw anything in there where you're like, I'm thinking of doing this, could I save money?
Exactly. We get that all the time. We get folks forwarding us bids saying, I'm thinking about doing this renovation, but I haven't done it yet. What would I be eligible for if I pursued it? Again, how should I think about spacing this out over time? All those kinds of questions.
I mean, I know, so Dana and Austin did ask things about, well, was the energy tax? Oh no, and you answered this, because the energy tax credit's available for short-term rentals for things like heat pumps, spray foam, and insulation. So that is where Shane's links for New York Clean Heat and New York Comfort Home would work.
That's right. Clean heat. Yeah. Clean heat can be both residential and commercial. That's right. And clean heat specifically. So you do claim that credit through the contractor that you work with to install the HVAC system, but you do need to work with a qualified contractor. Not all contractors are qualified. And so that's another example of something that Castle can help with, is making sure that you're working with a qualified contractor to make sure you're claiming that credit upfront.
I'd like to know what the definition of a qualified contractor is and how I can find
Yeah.
them. No,
I know they need to go through a certain certification program run by NYSERDA, but yeah, I know.
Do they also have to call you back and show
Yeah,
up?
right. Exactly. Unfortunately, we can't solve that problem, but we can at least tell you if they're eligible to claim tax credits.
Eric, is there anything, I mean, not to put you on the spot again, but is there anything you're thinking of doing at Penny Lane that you're sort of curious about?
Yeah, I mean, we have a list. So it's just electric heating and wall mounted air conditioners. And we are definitely looking to replace those with something that is like a split level or something like that. And it's possible that we will need to replace the roof. And so kind of opening the door to solar as well, that kind of stuff. Yeah. I mean, there's a lot of other like plumbing work that we'll have to do, but feel like that's just, I don't know if that would qualify.
Yeah, on plumbing, one, I don't know if this is your situation, but we also do like to flag that there are some septic system replacement funds in the upstate New York area. So if you have a septic system, that could be one other angle to approach with plumbing. But Shane, do you want to speak a little bit about solar?
Yeah, so solar installations that you do to a primary residence or a secondary residence. So the solar credit, it's actually all the same tax form on your federal taxes. It's form 5695. You don't have to remember that number. We'll remember it and we'll send it to your CPA. But you can claim 30% of your material cost on your federal taxes as a federal tax credit for solar panels. You can then also claim 25% of the material cost as a state income tax credit, capped at $5,000. And a big thing that we help our customers figure out when you're thinking about solar is just understanding what the bid that you're receiving is. One thing I will call out, there's A lot, I'm sure everybody on this call who owns a home has experienced this in the last couple of years. There are a lot of new folks entering the solar market with different deals, people offering $0 down, pay nothing, get it a net metering arrangement, so it's all paid through the utility. There are a lot of kind of transparently confusing options out there. So something we love to help our customers do is when they're thinking about solar or geothermal, something like that, sitting down with them and reviewing the bids that they're getting so they understand when a contractor says this is a $20,000 install, what that really might mean is that it's a $45,000 project, but they're assuming 25,000 of that's going to be covered by tax credits, and making sure you just understand what that really means. Because the upside of tax credits, they're really an amazing way to save money on your taxes, but you do have to owe taxes to take advantage of a non-refundable income tax credit. And you have to make sure you're not stacking too many tax credits. So like Madeline mentioned early on, maybe you've done some really, you have a really great tax preparers lower your tax obligation to a level where, if you do this arrangement with a solar installer, they're going to be giving you a 0 interest loan on a credit that you're supposed to get. But if that credit never comes in, you still owe that money to somebody. So
Yeah.
just helping you understand what are you actually getting as a bid and what's that real timeline of payment going to do. That's something to definitely keep in mind when you're thinking of solar. But then, the, heat pump systems, definitely stack those, especially on a second home. If you're not thinking about it as an income producing second home, if it's just like a property upstate that you have, lots of great programs for heat pumps. And it sounds like this is a new residence for you. So maybe think about sequencing some of that work over multiple years. So that way you can really take advantage of those federal incentives.
For sure.
Heat
Okay.
pumps, by the
great.
way, are mini splits. I mean, or like it's one of the things. So like, I feel like that was really confusing to me because I was like, why does a heat pump work as an air conditioner? I feel like it should
Yes.
have, I feel like it's a terrible name. Even like mini splits, heat pump, ducted heat pumps, like it just is a confusing.
They could use a rebrand. I
could use-
agree. I agree. Last thing to flag, just Eric, you mentioned doing some work on your roof. That probably also comes with some insulation. So always remember that you can claim insulation on your federal residential energy credit as well.
Oh, great. Thank you so much.
Yeah. Last thing too, just to also, the roof is a good call out. Depending on the type of roof work that you're doing, if you're doing it in conjunction with solar, there can be interesting ways that you can think about the cost of repairing or replacing parts of your roof as part of the solar installation, which can be beneficial for thinking about what your total cost that's eligible for the tax credit could be. That's something you definitely want to work really closely with your solar installer because they'll be the ones to most clearly document that. But redoing a roof, if solar is something that's on your roadmap, doing those two things together is usually advantageous from a savings perspective.
I just spoke to somebody who literally like a week ago was like, because we have to redo our roof, and they were like, so basically if you get solar, they like kind of do the roof for free because they're trying to put it on. I mean, I don't want to oversimplify this, but it was like very advantageous, not like a little advantageous. So we got a question here. Kingston has or had a program to support the building of ADUs if they were used to support affordable housing. Are there any other programs similar that are in other towns if there's land to build?
Definitely a lot of programs out there. I see Shane smiling, so I'll let you jump in a second as well. What my immediate reaction though, we do start then drifting a little bit into the world of commercial real estate credit programs, which there are certainly lots of other commercially focused tax credit programs out there. It's not Castle's focus because we do still focus on residential tax credit and savings programs. Again, if it's your second home, still happy to advise there, but we don't really cover commercial exclusive tax credits or kind of financial savings opportunities there. But I will say, yes, we do know that those kinds of programs exist in other towns. Then you also start getting into, for example, opportunity zones and investment zones, and there's definitely interesting opportunities there for just building in general, to create incentives for building in general. Shane, anything to add to that?
No, I think that's a great call out on ADUs. The past couple of years, the governor of New York has put out a lot of kind of guidance on, establishing new housing in the state of New York. There are definitely incentives that I think we can reasonably expect to see come down the pipe in the next couple of years. Right now with ADUs, so anybody doesn't know, ADU, they used to be called granny flats back in the day. Now they're accessory dwelling units. It's basically a small kind of tiny home that you build on your property. It's a kind of an easy way to build new, add to the housing supply without building, full multiple thousands of square foot housing. but we're not seeing anything at the state level. So all of those programs tend to be really localized to your specific municipality. More than happy to help you look up if your municipality is doing something. And then we're really keeping a close eye on seeing if New York's going to do something similar to what we've seen in California. We're seeing an effort in Massachusetts where they're doing statewide ADU policy, where essentially you can do as a right development on ADUs on your property, and then in some situations get an incentive if that ADU is going to be rented or sold for the purposes of establishing more affordable housing. So nothing statewide yet. There are kind of pilot programs going on, but definitely something we're keeping a really close eye on.
And I think so. Marie just said that, you know, the Kingston program was for residential, and I think it's helpful to know that what's commercial and what's residential can be a little bit of a gray area. Just like what is your primary and what's your secondary home, that there's like some decisions to be made.
Yeah,
there.
no, thank you for clarifying, Marie. And yes, I misinterpreted your question as you building many ADUs for, you know, new construction for other people to purchase. So thanks for the clarification. Yeah, I think on the commercial credit credit programs, you know, it often comes with the opportunity to you know, defer or not pay property taxes on those commercial properties for X number of years. So that was more what my mind went to when you said ADUs. But yeah, for your own residents, actually that's a great flag, and we would be happy to look into it and research more about Kingston specifically. But like Shane said, we haven't been tracking any statewide programs there yet. But yeah, we'd be happy to look into Kingston specifically.
Okay, super helpful. It's just, sorry, just so I think both answers were helpful, even if it was in the commercial, right? Megan, to your point, things kind of blur, right? But I'm always thinking about, yes, how do we save taxes, but also like, how do we support the community more broadly, right? So I think it's also important to think about, but thank you, super helpful.
I think,
Right.
and I totally agree with Madeline that I would be surprised if there aren't, I mean, basically every housing advocate thinks that ADUs are like the quickest way to add, you know, housing to existing stock. And so I would be surprised if there aren't like multiple programs in the next few years that really do support these, and companies that are going to get better at building them and having modular ones that they just kind of plunk down so that cost will get less expensive, and there should be credits and things. So I think that is going to be something to watch, even countywide. There, you know, like it's like literally could be your county, your state, like, you know, the nation.
That's right, Megan. And if I can just chime in here, I think
Yeah.
we live in a renaissance of housing solutions, sustainability technologies, very local and national tax credits and incentives for home transformation. And I am not as conscientious as Madeline and Shane to stay on top of all these things. So one of the benefits long-term of Castle, and why we are giving away this, you know, great giveaway, and we do so many things for our customers, is Castle will monitor and track these various incentives over time, because it changes, right? And there's an election every couple of years, new local folks get installed. There's a million things happening, and there's no way that you can stay on top of every single EV incentive or tax thing. And, you know, like most of us, you know, if you're like me, I can't even like process all my paper mail. It goes to the wrong property, whatever. So Castle will stay up to date and tell you, hey, I noticed that you have an EV car. Did you know that the governor of New York made a new credit available? And we can help you apply for it. So in that sense, it's a great peace of mind app where you do not have to worry about things, and it will tell you when there are additional savings.
That's right.
So basically you guys know, so because I put it into the system that I have an EV car, or I have like, so you kind of know about the house and the property, so that you would know when a new program comes, you kind of tell the people who have.
That's right. And so, yeah, that is the idea, is that if you just, you know, continue to pay your bills through Castle, not only is it the convenience of having everything consolidated in one place, but then, yeah, Castle will be able to monitor if you're making credit eligible, savings eligible purchases, and then we can flag those for you and say, yeah, you just bought a you know, credit eligible hot water heater. You know, we can submit this one form to National Grid, you know, get a $300 check in the mail, opt in. And, you know, that's the kind of how easy we want to make it for homeowners to save.
I mean, again, let me just say, this is amazing. And for any of you who are on this or listening to the recording, and when these guys are talking, you're like, what you hear is blah, 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 words, credit, blah, 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 blah. This is why I'm glad they do what they do and they can follow all of the new legislation. And I can just be like, here is my receipt from my water heater. I
That's
know how to
right.
do that bit of it. And then you guys can be like, hey, Megan.
I know
here's
we're we definitely geek out on all the details. And for anybody who wants to geek out with us, we're so happy to have these kinds of conversations. Also for folks who just want to say, like Hugo said, just peace of mind. I don't want to think about it. Don't make me think. Then the idea is that, again, you're just putting everything on autopilot. We'll flag things for you as they come up, and all you have to do is say yes, no. So yeah, we hope to be able to meet both kinds of homeowners where they are.
And I will say, you guys are very clear for what you talk about and very patient and very like kind. It's just that the topic can be a little overwhelming, particularly for first-time home buyers, which is like the actual reason that you founded this company. So
that's right.
It makes sense. So yeah, I guess I would ask if anyone has any last questions or if anyone from Castle has any last words. I just want to say that like, I really appreciate you being here. I appreciate all the folks who ask questions. I'm super excited to send out our email to our whole list of folks about Castle with this recording and with the opportunity to win up to $15,000 of your property taxes in 2024. So yeah, I don't know if you have any. We think tax credits are fun, so you don't have to.
Exactly.
Well, Megan, the one thing I'd say is that, you mentioned at the top of the hour, along with Madeline, the more statewide and national ambitions of the company. And I would say to that end, the Hudson Valley area was very carefully chosen as a test bed because it's got such a wide variety of different types of homes, different types of income groups, different, it's urban, suburban, ex-urban, farm. And so we hope to trial and build all of the new features that we are building in Columbia and Dutchess County and the entire Mid-Hudson Valley area. So the more folks from your group sign up, the faster we can grow. And forever we will be, there will always be an office in Hudson Valley. Like one day when we are in Montana or Wyoming or Texas, nothing against those wonderful states, we probably will not have an office down the street. It'll all be through an app and a website. But Hudson Valley will always have folks like Shane, folks like Madeline, folks like me down the street that can drive to your house and give you that white glove support as we build new features and test it here locally with our local users and fans. So thank you for doing that with us and helping us get to critical mass so we can always give the best price and brand latest products to folks locally.
I like that we're one of the more complicated areas. You guys wanted to start here.
Diverse.
And you are going to be moving. I mean, my understanding is Ulster is a possibility. So Dutchess and Columbia is like where you're firmly established, but then Ulster, Greene maybe.
Greene, Albany, Rensselaer, all the way down to Putnam and Orange. We're now accepting customers throughout the Hudson Valley and throughout New York. So yes, thank you so much, Megan and SJ for having us. We're really, really excited about this partnership and about the free tax giveaway. So definitely encourage everybody to sign up, get a free consultation, and hopefully we can find some ways to save you money on your home.
None of these guys are going to encourage their friends, Madeline. We're going to have to do it. If I had 15 on the line, I would not tell another person about it. But
that's right. The competitive angle. That's right.
Maybe I'm just a bad person.
No, not at all.
All right. Awesome. Thank you so much, everybody. And looking forward to seeing who the winner is. Bye.
Absolutely. Take care. Bye, everyone.